Welcome to the KM Builders Remodeling Design Show. I'm Keith Moehle, and along with me, Morgan Moehle Roberts.
Hi, everybody.
Let's get your mic turned up. There we go.
Hi, everybody.
So we are glad to be with you, and we want to go ahead and let you know that if you'd like to call into the show, we'd love to talk to you live at 737-1200 or 1-800-383-WOAI. And thank you for all your loyal listening and those who are viewing live on Facebook and YouTube.
Yep.
And if you'd like to do that, Morgan can tell you how to do that.
All you have to go is to facebook.com and look us up at KM Builders 1, and YouTube, just search for KM Builders, and we'll be monitoring the chat.
And usually if you just get close to typing it in, you'll find it.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're going to talk today about planning for a kitchen remodel. Now, a lot of the things we'll talk about would apply to just about any type of remodeling. But kitchen is probably the number one thing that we do, and that is the number one remodeling project in general. Of course, we do a lot of other things, and we want you to always remember that if you want a room addition, you want to make a one-story, a two-story, and you want to do an outdoor living area, we've got the architectural design team and the interior design team to take it all the way from just a conceptual idea to the finishing touches. With over 40 employees, KM Builders is really prepared to handle any project. We have done just about everything many, many times. And you've got one contractor for life with KM Builders. So we just want you to remember, some people do, we've done projects for people and they didn't realize that we do windows, or that we did hardy plank siding, or that we did roofs, or that we did kitchens when we did an addition. You know, we don't want to lose out on anybody getting the best contractor and the best service, best design team that they can get in the industry. We really appreciate working for all of you. And again, you're listening at 737-1200 if you'd like to join in. We're talking about the things to consider when you remodel your kitchen, things to think about ahead of time. And there's a lot of steps in planning for a kitchen remodel. It's even hard for me to do it all, to do it myself, even though we do it all the time. And Morgan's seen how tough it is to do a remodeling project, even in our own house when she used to live with us.
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember that was maybe different than what you'd expected?
I don't know.
I remember you helped on the project.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember the neighbor was worried about you being up on the roof with me. Remember that?
Yep, we were up on the roof, and we also helped do the siding.
And you helped with insulation too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, itchy.
Yeah. The siding, and we were on scaffolds.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a nice thing. And I wanted the family to do some of the work with it, because the girls had grown up with me in the business, and I wanted them to have a little experience. So Morgan and Alexis got up on the roof and helped us roof the addition. It wasn't a huge job, but
it was cold.
But it was big. Yeah, it was a pretty big job, because we ended up doing the whole roof.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but that's why we did it in the cold weather, because it wasn't so hot. It would have been a lot worse. But I stayed below y'all, so y'all couldn't slide down. I mean, you couldn't slide
we
down.
Didn't.
I knew
we
that
were
you couldn't
just
slide.
sliding you the shingles. We didn't move around.
Mm-hmm. That was back in what year? Do you remember?
I know I was in 7th grade or 8th grade.
Mm-hmm. So it was like 2007. It's 2006, I think, right around 2006 when we were doing that. And then we finished the inside around 2007. And y'all had two nice master suites up there almost.
Mm-hmm.
And but remodeling does have a lot of aspects to it, and it is rare that someone fully anticipates all that's needed. So that's why it's good to talk about planning it. And any questions you have about remodeling, we certainly want to answer those too. So one of the best things to do when we talk about planning, there's physical planning and then there's mental planning. Let's talk a little bit about the mental planning that goes on in a kitchen remodel. First thing is how you're going to use it. You really have to have a clear-cut plan of how you're going to use your kitchen. And you also need to have priorities, because you can't probably fit everything that you might imagine in a kitchen in your budget. Now, Morgan is always on the internet. She's always acquainting me with things that are cool in remodeling, and kitchens especially. And I guess it's pretty safe to say that a lot of these things are, I mean, if you did them all, it'd just be too much
Yeah.
for most people's budgets. But
There's so many options.
yeah, I mean, and then styles too, you know, styles, but particularly how many features you can put in a kitchen. People oftentimes want to know what it costs to remodel a kitchen, obviously, but we really have to give you an assessment on site, because it depends on what types of things you're going to be able to put in your kitchen and what type of budget you're going to have. You know, really, what are your needs also? So good questions to ask yourself are something like, you know, how many people do I plan on entertaining? And not just on the small side, but perhaps you need to plan for the big, the largest. Normally we recommend that someone will plan for the most that they're going to entertain.
So that would be like when they have their whole family over for gatherings or holidays or something?
Exactly. And if that's a regular thing and it's important to you to really have a nice setting there, then that's probably the size you want to try to plan for. And obviously having more people around the kitchen and more people being entertained, more people being fed and cooked, you know, foods prepared for, is definitely going to be a different kitchen than one that only serves 2 people and sometimes 4 or 5. That's a different size kitchen. So definitely need to ascertain your max, the max potential of that kitchen and what you'd like it to be built for and feel comfortable. But other things can enter into it too, like I want to feel relaxed when I entertain, or I want to make sure that no one's in my way when I'm cooking, or
part of the party.
Yeah, or I want to be part of the party. Exactly. I want to feel like when I'm cooking that I'm part of the entertaining. And most people do like some of those things. But some people also want the kitchen to stay really neat during the cooking process. And they want it to be laid out so that cleaning will be really efficient. Maybe they can put things in the sink and so forth and hide things. Maybe 2 dishwashers, or you know, the appliances that are chosen will make a difference on how much cooking is a priority and so forth. So we really need to have clear goals whenever we're talking with our designer, and this is something that we'll guide you through. These are the kinds of things that we want to get out of you so that we can show you what those impact and also what solutions would be there if these are really important to you. And it's good to have those kind of on a priority list, so, you know, maybe top of what's most important to least important, because no doubt you'll probably have to start making some compromises. So we'll talk about, for example, some specifics that a person would want to have, and find out what matters most to them, such as daily use of special events and so forth. We're going to talk about that, but before we go on the break, I want to mention my friends over at Truly Nolan. They have done a great job for us in the past at our home, and I think that you too would like to have them check your home out for rodents or for any kinds of pests and termites, especially at trulynolan.com. Talk to Chance at 210-651-1720 at trulynolan.com. We'll talk about daily use versus special events when we come back to the KM Builders Remodeling and Design Show.
Join the over 1 million people who have discovered a smarter, easier way to achieve your weight loss goals and improve your health. How is Golo different?
How is it? Was it playing outside that whole time?
Huh?
Was it playing outside?
No. As soon as I turn off the microphones, it starts.
Oh, you turned them off?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, you'd hear us on the air.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So when we turn it on, the microphone's on, it's only in our out. It doesn't have any background noise.
Is there a way to turn my headphones a little lower?
Mm-hmm.
They're so loud.
Are they?
Yeah. That's better. Didn't we already really talk about this one?
Which is?
The daily use special events?
Well, we'll just mention briefly that daily use, you're going to plan it for daily use, you're going to plan it for special events.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one is cost versus value. I want to do cost versus value next week.
Okay, like a whole one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We
No,
need to
next
look
week
up
is
all-
Solar Light. But the next one after
What
that.
is solo like? Oh.
We have that guy.
Bean? Sean Bean?
Yeah.
So let's mention that, remember to mention that at the end of the program.
Okay.
We have to have it there until we get back on the air so I can hear it when it's coming back.
You turned it on my
Mine too.
headphones. Oh, it's
It's the
both?
same, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then remind me, we have to do Billy's Western one at the end. Is that the one coming back from the break?
Okay. I liked the function versus aesthetics section
In what?
in this one.
Okay.
It just was really interesting, like thinking about, okay, so, you know.
Well, let's talk about that later because I need to do this one next.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes commodity scooters are sad. Child Fed has served the children of their county for nearly 3 decades. We're here to give a voice to children who don't have one. No excuse. Stop child abuse. Give today.
Attention San Antonio. How would you like to earn 1, 2, or perhaps
I'd like to think about
in passive mailbox money?
where is this? Right here. The pet peeve. Give me, think of examples for these things.
Okay.
Write down. Start with that one, two examples. Stay ahead of me on examples on all those. Start with that one. Stimulate conversation. You look up Billy's Western Wear number and their website. Well, not now. We'll do it at the end of the third section. What is that? Home sweet home. Good job, Tracy. Welcome back to the KM Builders Remodeling Design Show with a little new music with the help of Tracy there. Thank you. And we are taking your calls live at 737-1200. We're talking about particularly about planning for kitchen remodeling and things to consider. We're kind of going through some of the mental exercises that clients need to go through to ensure that the project is successful. But if you'd like to ask anything about remodeling, we're here, Morgan and I are live in the studio, ready to take your call at 737-1200. And we start a little bit about how you consider the use of the kitchen. That's a big one. Make sure you have a priority list. And whenever you're thinking about a goal for your kitchen, you want to make sure that you're going to plan for what's going to be the most convenient for you, what's going to be the most reasonable for you. For example, do you cook for 25 to 30 people, or do you just seldom cook for that many and you really don't, you're going to do something different if that were to happen? Do you have like three or four people? You know, so are you planning to build your kitchen for the daily use, or would you rather build it for special events and kind of really spend more money? Obviously, if you plan for the special events, you're going to be okay with the daily stuff too, but the cost is going to be quite a bit different. So that's what you have to consider. If the budget were to start pushing in on you, would you want to still build this thing for the large use that you do occasionally, or even if you do it often? But that's a good question to answer first before you get going in this. Again, it's going to affect the budget. The design choices will be different. You know, how much storage you have, how much seating you have, how much refrigerator space you have, how many ovens you choose, how many sinks even, and sometimes even how many dishwashers you need. These things can be just really, really convenient. They can be wonderfully luxurious and convenient for you whenever you start planning for larger events, but they are going to be more expensive. That is a different price tag for a kitchen remodel when you start putting in several of these items. Even one of them can bust a budget. So you really want to plan for that. The maximum capacity that you would feel comfortable planning for is what we would encourage you to do, though. Now let's talk about the cost versus value consideration that you should be thinking about in a kitchen remodel. We're not just talking about what's the cost versus value of kitchens if you were to turn around and resell it, obviously, tomorrow. Well, that is a consideration, because if you're doing a kitchen remodel and you're going to move out right away, you're definitely going to be kind of a non-standard kitchen remodel client. Most people are talking about living there for a while. But there's other things to think about, cost versus value. The cost of the product you're putting in, the details that you're putting in, versus the value it's going to give you in your life. Not just the resale value. That's not what we're primarily referring to. You have to really weigh some of the benefits of this. For example, will the investment improve your everyday life? We can be talking about cabinets, we can be talking about how many sinks, we can be talking about how many appliances, and they all come in such a variety of pricing. So, will the investment improve your daily life? Can you think of anything on that, Morgan?
Yeah, I think about, you need a bigger fridge. If you're reaching in, you can never find anything, that's a pain in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
And then if your cabinetry is not organized for your life, you don't have enough of a certain type of drawers that would fit your pots better, you can't find anything when you're cooking, that will improve your quality of life.
Yes, so if you were talking about cabinets, for example, and you just wanted to do a facelift on the cabinets, painting your cabinets might look great. I know we've talked about it before, but would that really solve that organization issue?
Not at all.
No.
And it'd still be a pain.
Yeah, and so that's a very good example, Morgan. I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of people say, well, I'll just save my cabinets. But you need to think about, is that investment, after it's all done and you've spent a good amount of money refurbishing your cabinets, for example, will that really be solving some of the things that you've had to deal with for so long and that you would like to end? Sometimes an education in this area helps us to realize we could have it a lot better than it is. We just don't know it. Mm-hmm. And so a good remodeling design company will help you to see what you could have. And then you can weigh whether that cost is worth it for you. Typically, we talk about cabinet remodels, kitchen remodels, refacing, refinishing cabinets versus replace them is about 2/3 the cost of getting brand new, if you were to kind of do about the same floor plan. So people need to consider that. Would you be happy putting 2/3 of the money and it still really didn't improve your life that much? Or would this extra money really make you happy? That's the cost versus value that you need to consider. Another question would be, would the product solve a pet peeve? That's kind of similar to what you were referring to.
Yeah, but for me, I went to our clients, the Kerns, and I didn't realize that I had a pet peeve, but I found out that we installed a hot water dispenser for his French press every morning. Now I have a pet peeve. I don't like waiting for my water to have to get hot. I want my hot water dispenser.
Yeah, at any desired temperature.
Yes.
Yes.
And instantly.
Isn't that nice? I didn't thought of that, but you used a French press recently. Mm-hmm. And that would be nice to just have that water the right temperature immediately. So when we do our kitchen remodel, you've now got me adopting it as a pet peeve. So that's a good point.
Or people that aren't strong and they have to do lifting pots full of water to their stovetop, a pot filler would be something that would solve a pet peeve of theirs.
Yeah, that's right. And so there's so many pet peeves that people have, and you just need to list them down and start thinking about them. That's why before you start engaging in a kitchen remodel, you want a list of things that you've noticed over the last year that you'd like to have solutions for. It could be that it's hard to clean the grout. Mm-hmm. It could be that your countertop has smudges. It could be, I want a different material for that to solve these issues. And don't hesitate to put these things down because there are solutions. There's grout that will never ever stain, easy to clean. If it's a shower, for example, no mold, no mildew. There's grouts that accomplish this, and they'll never change color on you. So we talk about some of these products from time to time, but mainly don't underestimate the amount of things you can solve by going into a full professional remodel that's professionally designed. Lighting might be another pet peeve. You don't have to live with every time you bend over the countertops, lean over them a little bit, that you have a shadow over what you're working on. That's a lighting issue that almost everybody has until they remodel with a professional. Professional knows how to solve those lights, and believe me or not, a lot of people who do this for a living still don't solve those issues. They do things the easy way rather than the really well thought out way and planned way, and a lot of them just don't have enough experience to know how to design lighting. But we go to classes, we know how to do this. This is part of the institutes that we are part of that train us on these things with professional designers involved. These are big, big deals. So a pet peeve could be that, or it could be the flooring choice, or an entryway to get anything, access to that corner cabinet that bothers you because you have to pull it out. Again, lots of cabinet issues or pet peeves for a lot of people, and these are easily solved. And so what will the addition of this do to your home? Will it make it feel like your home? Was it something that's going to increase the value of your home monetarily? Sometimes one product might be a little less expensive, but it really doesn't add the resale value. So those are definitely some things that you would want to consider in it. What was your last thought?
And making your house feel like a home, those little additions really truly put you into your home. And that's a big deal.
That's so true. You want to, if you're going to do this, you definitely want to feel like it was worth it for you, and to get that ease, that pleasure that you have in it. We're going to talk about some more things to consider in the mental planning of a kitchen remodel, or any remodel for that matter. We'll talk about function versus aesthetics when we come back to the KM Builders Remodeling and Design Show. Did he say that?
Yeah.
Focused on how to maintain control of the House and Senate, as well as state offices during the 2018 midterm elections. In Alabama,
I was thinking with this one, many people may want white everything, but they have little kids, you know, or they're a messy cook, and you get it everywhere. You're gonna have a lot more. It's gonna look dirty all the time.
That's right. And so some people are concerned about the kitchen and cleaning, so they will clean all the time, so they won't raise countertops on the bars, so that it gives a little bit of sight. The sight goes away from seeing clutter on the counters.
Oh yeah.
Other people, you know, that's not a big deal to them. They wouldn't do it that way. But when it comes to cost, the extra sink is an extra cost, the extra plumbing, even moving it to an island. But if they want to put those dishes in there, that might be worth it for them. Another thing is dishwashers. You know, really nice dishwashers that don't have to pre-rinse. Maybe an upgraded one might be worth that investment to someone.
For your time.
But to someone else who doesn't mind washing dishes, they wouldn't spend a penny more on a dishwasher that was better than standard.
Yep.
Or they may not even want a dishwasher in some cases. And then there are people on the other extreme who want the best, and people who want two dishwashers. Like I want two dishwashers. Because to me, it's about time. I want to be able to take dishes that are clean and leave them in the dishwasher, not put them away, and just use those, and then put them in.
You don't ever want to put them in the cabinet.
I don't want to put them in the cabinet.
Dishes that stay
I just want to go from dishwasher to dishwasher, and
that's
a
dumb.
time saver. Yeah, I think it's a great idea for remodeling.
Mom's not gonna like that.
I don't know. Maybe she might buy into the idea. It might save her time too. I'm helping in the kitchen more since Lexus is gone, so I should have a say. And I've actually cooked a little bit too now, but I do want to be able to cook more often.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Another example was most people use burners to 80% of the time. Studies say, and the oven is 20%. But there are people who, you know, and those people will spend more money on their stove top, their cooktop, or their range, because that's where they spend a lot of their time. But some
Especially
people
in
bake
Texas.
all the time. Some
Yeah.
people bake all the time, and they really want those special ovens, the high-end ovens, and they spend a little less money on the cooktop or the range. So again, knowing what's important to you is a big, big help.
Yeah.
When we come back to the show, we're going to talk live about function versus aesthetics.
That's what I was meaning about the function versus aesthetics, the white. You know, if they have kids. Because that would be, they want it
Look up
really pretty.
Lily's Western.
I did.
And, write it down here.
So
for
the,
me.
okay.
Write the phone number and the website.
Do you have the address or not?
Yeah.
It's just billieswesternwear.com.
So, just put .com.
Right there.
We'll do number 4 last.
Okay.
Welcome to, can you hear me? Welcome to the KM Builders Remodeling and Design Show. This is Keith Moehle and Morgan Moehle Roberts. We are taking your calls live at 737-1200. We hope you're enjoying the show and the beautiful day. It's finally warmed up a little bit. And we are talking about planning your kitchen remodel. And a lot of it applies to all kitchen remodels. I mean, all types of remodeling, not just kitchens. And we are talking about some of the things that would be kind of a mental planning. What are your priorities, and getting things straight for you before you get started so that you can calculate the cost and what it's worth to you. we talked about whether, you know, how to plan for a kitchen, how many people are going to be involved in it and so forth, the way you want to cook. Because there's different types of budgets for different types, different sizes of kitchens that would be required. Whether you really want to open that wall up or not, it's a big difference in price. You know, that could be 15 to 20% of your budget. How many sinks you have and so forth. So these are very important considerations, and to kind of list them in order of priority, because you will probably have to compromise somewhere along the way to keep in budget. Cost versus value. What does it mean to you? What problems does it solve? What potential increase in the value of the home, not only in how it would resell. Some products have a much greater resale, and professionals like us would definitely acquaint you with that. What is going to sell better, and then also what is going to really please you the longest and really make you feel like you spent the money well, versus having to go out and change it later. These are some very, very important things to consider. Looking for number 3, our next one is function versus aesthetics. Again, we're taking your calls live at 737-1200. So one of the consideration you have to go through on one level or another is function versus aesthetics. So of course we want all of our kitchens that we remodel, and that you want, I'm sure you want it to be really functional and very aesthetically pleasing. But there are limits on how far you can go with this without breaking the bank. Aesthetics, we're talking about, of course, the really beautiful things in your home, customizing, high-end looks. That's the aesthetics that everybody leans toward. And a lot of people tell me, you know, we don't want to get real fancy, so they're telling me keep the cost down. And it is true, and there are different degrees of quality and even aesthetically beautiful things. So those are some things you would want to explore. That's what your builder and your remodeler, particularly in your designer, you'd want to explore with them first. It's in everything that we're talking about, we are mentioning planning ahead of time. This is not something you do, you call someone over, then you get started within a month. It typically takes a couple of months to plan out a kitchen correctly. You know, from the walls that are going to be affected, to the plumbing, to the electrical, to the appliances, to the cabinet finishes, to the flooring, the lighting, and so on and so on. There's a lot of items I haven't mentioned, but they are all very important to making sure you kick this off with success and do not have regrets. So some questions on some things to think about on aesthetics versus function. You know, you're going to have to look at what's really worth it to you. For example, maybe you're more concerned with the looks of the kitchen. You really want it to be stunning. An example of that might be that you have a built-in custom fridge, a built-in fridge with custom panels on it that matches your cabinetry. That's a high dollar item in a kitchen remodel. Getting the panels custom made to match the cabinetry is a beautiful, beautiful look. And it kind of hides it, makes it look very, very built in, more so than anything else you could do. But for some people, they would really rather have a really big functional, large, a stovetop, or even a very large freestanding refrigerator that accomplishes more and on less of a budget, on more of a budget. Mm-hmm. And so neither one is, would you say, is not pleasing aesthetically, but one is definitely higher end than the other. Mm-hmm. And if you want to buy that special stovetop, cooktop, or that specialty range, you may want to cut back on some of that high dollar item of building in that refrigerator with custom panels. Another thing is, you know, a second sink might be something that you really want to put in there. Now that doesn't just involve the cost of a sink or the cutout on the countertop that is going to be involved. There's plumbing involved, there's vents, and depending on where you put it, it can be in that second sink can cost a lot more than the first one. But if that's something that really is important to you, then you might cut out on some of the aesthetics elsewhere. For example, the type of panel you put on your cabinets. The types of frame doors that you have on your cabinets can vary largely in the price. And they can also vary a great deal in price by what you choose on the type of wood species you want and the finish on that. A painted cabinet with glazing might be a little more expensive than something that has a nice stain to it. And so a certain type of, maybe a shaker panel might be less expensive than a more detailed panel. And so if you make these compromises and you look at the differences in the price, then you can really weigh what is most important to you. That extra sink or that really special appliance might be a better choice for you. Again, on countertops, some people are in love with a certain type of quartz, and it's a very high-end quartz. They've seen it somewhere, or they fall in love when they saw it in the showroom. But if they can go maybe to a granite that might be kind of close to that, they might find themselves saving thousands of dollars to be able to buy that other item that they wanted. So when you get help and you get a menu pricing like KM Builders does, it's easy for you to make those decisions, a lot easier. And you can see exactly where that's going to push you over your budget. And I think that's one of the things that really helps people a lot, to see everything itemized out. Options are separated. How much more would it be if I bought this or that?
So they can really choose what's more important, or, you know, I don't care if that is the cost and it's worth it.
That's right. And you know, you don't want to have to be, wear yourself out or have a contractor wear you out, because it's so hard to get a price isolated. And we hear about this in the industry, and it used to be, you know, just to be the only way that we knew how to do it at the beginning. But we always started pricing things out separately for ourselves. So we said, why not show the client what everything would be? So we now offer people to price separate things for them. They say, well, if they're not sure, why don't we give you a separate price for that to show you how much more it would be? So when you go through a contract at KM Builders that has what we call a worksheet, which is very much like a menu in a restaurant. It has your main courses, and then it has your entrees, and then your side dishes, if you will, and even desserts. And we have those listed separately, so you know how much more you're going to pay. And some of them are upgrades. For example, you would pay this much more to go to this type of quartz countertop versus this granite that you liked. But you were in love with this one. It's only going to be, let's say, $1,800 more to change that to this. You don't have to do a lot of math. You can see it's $1,800 more right there. And instead of saying, could you find, you know, how much was I paying for this? Or what would if I were to change this or that? Well, we don't really have that number available. So why don't you come in next week, or we'll talk again, and everything gets pushed aside. We have that already done for you so that you can really talk about it. You and your partner can sit there and talk about it. We'll let you go. We'll give you the time to just debate which ones you want. Call us back when you're ready. We'll be in the other room, and y'all can talk about which ones are most important to you. Or if you want to, we can settle on the base price, which most people feel is very reasonable, and take the worksheet home and work on the options and see which ones you think are going to be worth your investment. It won't change. The prices won't change. They're right there for you, and so people enjoy looking at those things. But to have choices is a big, big help. Let's see. We're just about to go to the break, and before we do so, I wanted to remind everyone about Billy's Western Wear. The rodeo's coming up, so look up BillysWesternWear.com. They're over there on Main Street in Bernie, 1490 Main Street. Call my friend Greg White at 830-249-3843. We just bought some boots for Mom there. Billy's Western Wear on Main Street on Bernie.
We've all got boots from there.
Yeah, we did. I've got a couple of really nice blue cases, and I'll give you some Tony Lamas here that are ostrich real soon too, so I'm looking forward to wearing those. And we're going to talk about, when we come back, speed versus patience. When we come back to the KM Builders Remodeling and Design Show.
I have my boots from there too.
I'm glad you said that.
Are you gonna do speed versus patience?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was just wondering.
You want to do the ideal me versus the real me?
No, I don't know. I was just wondering if that was real, because I know that we try to order those things ahead of time, so that way, even if it is a specialty item.
Well, I'll talk about it in the planning stage. Not in the construction stage. I'm going to change it.
Oh, okay. Because that, that just seems like a not thought out contractor.
Right.
That's doing that.
Mm-hmm. real very long. We'll just talk
Yeah.
briefly about it, and you can think of anything you'd like to say about that. Think about how people are real tempted when they're contractors. Don't get started right away. Jump in anytime. Oh yeah, but this can all be applied to. If you want to wait, we can order that. But if you want to hurry up, you're not going to be able to get it. You're going to have problems.
Well, what I'm saying is that we shouldn't have those problems because of the design part. Once we get started, we should have all of the products
Yeah,
pretty
but not
much
if they
ordered.
wanted to start right away and they say, well, I don't want to wait for that product. You know. Can you get started now? It's not in yet. Or I don't see the need to plan. I'll pick my tile later.
Yeah. Why?
Trying to talk us
Yeah,
into
that's
or
what.
another company.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it, I think.
Or people are just
Why do
tempted,
I
or
have to
people are
pick it
just
before?
tempted to just go with a contractor who's saying we can start right away. We don't need to have that. We can decide
We
later.
order as we go.
We can decide this later.
We'll decide
Let's
as
get
we
started
go.
now. To save time, let's get started now.
Mhm.
So you're gonna say that, and I'm gonna say, yeah, that's what they say to save time, but that's not true.
Yeah, okay, I'll say it.
Still gotta have it. It's a 200 milligrams. Must be more.
That's not a lot for you, man.
I know. That's why.
Why'd you
why I
only
always
take that?
more.
Hello?
Because it did not go well.
Yeah, I take 1,000, or I take 800, and you take 1,000. Your mom's so concerned with it messing her dinner now.
He's got lots of house stuff, doesn't he? Welcome to the KM Builders Remodeling and Design Show. Thank you, Tracy. You put a lot of house off there for us. Good job. You're keeping us interested too. And we are talking live at 737-1200 with you. 737-1200. And we are also live on
Facebook at KM Builders 1 and YouTube at KM Builders.
So please join us if you get a chance to see my pretty Morgan, my beautiful daughter. And you can just put up with me in the meantime while you do that. We are talking about the mental planning that goes on in kitchen remodeling, and we have talked about several aspects, how you should be willing to plan it out and make decisions that are based on budgets and priorities. How you use the kitchen, how is the cost versus value to you, even to the overall well-being and resale of the home, function versus aesthetics. We're going to talk a little bit about having patience. Everybody wants it to be done quickly, but part of this mental planning is really to have patience, not just want the speed. Speed is great, and there should be no unnecessary delays. We pride ourselves on being twice as fast as anyone else in this industry, but it's because of the good planning that takes place ahead of time. And people are tempted to lean in the favor of speed versus good planning.
Yes, sometimes they just want to get started right away, and they'll choose somebody who tells them, well, we can start right now if you just want to, I guess, not make some decisions, but we'll just get started.
Well, they'll even tell you that it saves time to do that.
Yeah.
And that is exactly not true. They can make demolition look like it's a big part of the job, but with us, it only takes a couple of days, usually on a very large demolition. So we don't want to be standing around waiting for product to come in. We wouldn't be standing around on your project, that's for sure. We'd be somewhere else working, and your project would be sitting. And you'd be standing around wondering why things weren't getting done. And
And
it's,
they're in a mess.
well, then you're in an unusable kitchen. Hopefully
Yep.
it's not messy, but it certainly doesn't look as nice as it did before we tore it out.
Yeah.
And so we can only do so much without all the products there. We can get to the point, and even if it gets to the point where the backsplash tile is not there, well, you can't do plumbing, you can't do fixtures until all of that's in there. Usually you very often you're stuck. And so a lot of decisions, if you didn't pick a countertop, you can't do the plumbing, you can't do the backsplash. Really important. That floor tile is very important. So people will say that you can do it without it. Let's get started, but that is a really bad decision. You need to, and even during the planning, whenever you're saying, do I really want to wait for this or get the one I really want? If it takes a month longer to get something in, usually that means about 2 weeks that you would have to delay the project because we don't need it at the beginning. We need it eventually, but it might be worth it to you to go ahead and take that little extra time. But some people just think that the planning should be a week and to be done with it, but that is a mistake also. So working with professional designers will teach you that there are a lot of important decisions that need to be made, and that's why we recommend a full architectural and interior design planning service that we offer in-house at KM Builders. A lot of people talk about they'll design your kitchen, they'll even do 3Ds and so forth, but they don't have licensed architectural designers, and licensed interior designers. And that's why we say that you could have someone else remodel your home, but then you'd have to live in it. It is a huge difference when it is done by professionals. We hope that you will give us the chance to talk about your project. I would love to meet you personally. I'll give you a free consultation and give you a lot of information. I guaranteed you'll like what you hear when you give me a call at 680-5626. Talk to Tiffany or Tina and they'll schedule an appointment on my schedule and yours at 680-5626, or just log on at kmbuilders.com. We enjoyed talking to you and I hope you enjoyed listening to the KM Builders Remodeling Design Show. And remember, you could have someone else design or remodel your home, but then you'd have to live in it.
The proceeding has been a paid program.